What is up? What is up? Welcome back to an NFL rundown brought to you by runpurebets.com. Head over to runpurebets.com. Check out all the best in sports gambling information. If you're not already a member, use the promo code BETS25 off to become a member. Get access to all the plays, get access to the Discord, and let the winning begin. Tyler, running pure in the preseason. How's everything going for you today?
It's good. I'm just happy to see we got regular season football back. We got college football back last Saturday. Now it's time to roll into the NFL regular season.
Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic. Now, we had a lot of fun doing the NBA rundown during the year, and we will be continuing doing the NBA rundown. This is a show that's kind of in the same vein here. Of course, we will be doing it twice a week, so this is just our early thoughts on some of the games. We might switch by the time the next show comes out, but we're giving you a look, and then the lines that we do think that are going to move, the plays that we like, the lines are going to move. We're going to give those out now. The ones that we're not necessarily sure about, we will wait till later in the week. With that being said, thank you everybody for joining us, and let's get started. The NFL season is going to kick off in Tampa Bay on Thursday night football. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you are, I'm not sure if we're going live or if it's for members only, but there will be a live show. I'll definitely at least be part of the pregame, and we will see how that goes going forward with all the T-ball and football commitments we got going on. But we're going to be having a lot of fun winning as usual on the live show, and this is going to be a game that we are going to enjoy. The beginning of the year, the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tyler, this line opened way up in the summer at 6.5. It's all the way out to 8. What do you think of the Dallas Cowboys grabbing 8 points in Tampa against the defending champions?
I think it's a lot of points, but when they said Zach Martin could likely miss this game too,
yeah,
kind of makes me lean towards just taking Tampa Bay. It almost rubs me as this could be like a 24-10, 34-17 kind of game, to where that could look like Mahomes did in the Super Bowl with this depleted offensive line. They just pin the ears back on these pass rushers for Tampa Bay, and he's just running for his life in his first game back, which is not ideal. But yeah. I mean, Tampa Bay's offense, both of these offenses should just score points left and right. But Tampa Bay's bringing back everybody from last year. They're adding Gio Bernard. That gives Tom Brady that little check down guy in the backfield that he loves. I think this offense is just going to keep chugging along. I think they win this game easily.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me. Originally, I was looking at taking the points, but you're right. That's Zach Martin on an already depleted offensive line, right? I mean, it's like I remember 2-3 years ago, I felt like the Raiders and the Cowboys had the best offensive lines in the league. Both have had serious, whether it's departures or injuries, they've had serious depletions, and it's just not the same. You talked about Tampa Bay's pass rush. I have to agree. And what's the one thing they used their first-round draft capital on, right?
An edge rusher who looks
Joe
very
Tryon.
good.
Yeah. And some of that obviously is being in, number one, a good system, a great coach in Todd Bowles, and then other guys around him that's going to get more attention, because are you going to block the rookie or are you going to block Ndamukong Suh, right? You kind of got to start with Suh.
Coming free.
Yeah, you got to kind of start with Suh and let the rookie beat you, but I think that he's going to have a great season. I think what comes down to this game, what do you expect from Dak Prescott on his first game back? Now, we did the division previews and season previews, and we felt that Dak was going to have a good season. Do you think he has a first game necessarily, though, or do you think this is like, we've seen some NBA players, takes a little while to get back in the groove? What do you expect from Dak in this game?
I think we could see a slow starting first half from him, but I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the game to see him post like 350 and a couple touchdowns. Mm-hmm. But I think you could see a lot of that yardage coming in garbage time when the game's already out of hand and Tampa's already got it in the bag. Mm-hmm. So in the end, it could look like he had a good game, but I think we'll see him struggle in that first half, and Tampa Bay will just be all over him to where he's just flustered back there. We know he's not going to really want to run the ball with coming off an ankle injury like that, and that's just not good with a depleted offensive line in this pass rush coming after you.
Right. The offensive line is depleted, but I got to say, this guy's got some weapons, right? Michael Gallup as your third option. I think CeeDee Lamb was the steal as a draft. As a Raiders fan, I'm still a little miffed that we passed on him. I think that guy's a great talent. And, of course, another former Raider, Amari Cooper, that I think almost gets undervalued because of his drops. But the guy's one of the best route runners in the league, and he's constantly getting open. Then you have the combination of Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Ezekiel Elliott, I'd say the big knock on on him is he's slightly overpaid. But regardless, I still think he's a great running back here. What do you expect from this Dallas offense here? Would you be looking at any team totals? And the over is 51.5. Sounds like you think that there's going to be some points being scored.
I could definitely see it going over, but with it being week 1, fans being back in the stadium, I kind of want to lean under. We've seen a lot of the college games this weekend. I know college is a different atmosphere, but with those fans back in the stands, these away teams coming in, they almost come in a little rattled once they see how loud it is in these stadiums with these fans back. You figure last year they walked into the stadiums, it was dead silent. You could hear any audible you wanted to call. There was no, you didn't have to worry about the offensive linemen really jumping off sides because they can't hear your snap count. All that's going to change again this year. So if you had to pin me down to a side on the total, I'd probably lean under. And for Dallas's offense, I think they put up some points, but I don't think those points come until the game's out of hand and they can't really do much with it. You know what I mean?
All right. That's the second time you've mentioned that. My question for you is at minus 4.5 for the first half, do you almost think that's a better play?
I think that's worth a shot right there. I could definitely see Tampa Bay taking maybe a 14-7 lead into halftime, maybe even 14-0.
All right. Well, this is the only game that we'll be discussing props on because it's the only game that they've dared to put props up for the prop guru to attack. Have you looked at any props for this game, and what do you have for everybody?
I have. The ones I looked at, I keep seeing all these news articles coming out of Tampa Bay that Antonio Brown's back. He looks like how he played with Pittsburgh. Well, he had his yardage set at 47.5. I think you have to bet the over there. I think it's too short in general, even if he's not what they say he is right now. But we seen it last year. He covered that number a lot. He's going to be the third wide receiver in this trio. This pass defense is terrible. They ain't going to be able to cover any of these guys, let alone the number 3 guy. And Brady loves throwing to him in the red zone. I wouldn't even mind taking an Antonio Brown anytime touchdown at plus 190.
I like that too as well. You know who I think is going to have a huge year for the Tampa Bay Bucks that's kind of getting overlooked is Mike Evans. I felt that him and Brady were starting to get some chemistry there towards the end of the year. And the one thing I think that is scary for everybody except for Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans is when we watched last year, there was a working out period while Arians and Brady kind of were jousting for control of the offense, and they both wanted to put the way that they like to do things in there. Seems like they finally found a happy medium towards the end of the season, and once they did, this offense was unstoppable. You talked about the Dallas defense as well not being very good. I was really disappointed. I'm not a big McCarthy guy to begin with. I think that he's super overrated. And then, you bring in Dan Quinn. I don't understand why you would bring in Dan Quinn, right? Dan Quinn made his name with the Legion of Boom. And I feel that you and I could have drawn up the proper plays with Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, and Earl Thomas in the secondary, right? Not to mention all the great players they had in their front seven. But that was just one of the best secondaries that we've seen in the last 20 years. And I think he's just it's like Luke Walton won when he coached the Warriors, right?
Yep.
I mean,
where
there's just
anybody
certain times,
won with that team.
And I hate to discredit coaches like that, but I feel that Dan Quinn was really the beneficiary. Another one like this, right? Adam Gase works with Peyton Manning for a year, and all of a sudden he's an offensive genius. You get him on with the normal quarterback, and you see that, wait, maybe it was a lot more Peyton Manning than Adam Gase here. So with Dan Quinn here, I mean, originally, you just look at this line. It's a primetime game. You want to take the dog. But I just don't see how you can back Dan Quinn and this defense to get it done against Tom Brady, who's just, the big guy's still got a chip on his shoulder at 44 years old. Any more thoughts on this game before we move on?
The one other thought I have on this game, I can't find props for the guy. The only thing I can find is an anytime touchdown prop. We know Brady loved James White in New England. You had to use Leonard Fournette as his dump-off back last year, and we've seen Leonard catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. Well, they signed Gio Bernard, and that's what he does is catch balls out of the backfield. Arians has already said he's going to have a major role in this offense. He's going to be Brady's check-down guy. His anytime touchdowns plus 370. If you can find reception props on this guy at 1.5, I think you have to go over. Any third down situation that's close, he's just going to catch those little dump-offs. And any short yardage situation, he's just going to be in there for it.
Yeah. Joey works in the chat talking about what's up, Joey. Haven't heard from a Cowboys backer yet. I mean, yeah, it is tough, right? With the way that Tampa closed the season, beating Patrick Mahomes, it's hard to imagine that you're getting a team with the worst quarterback and worst coaching staff, and that all of a sudden they are going to be able to do it. But this is the NFL, and crazy stuff has happened, right, Joey? So that's why we're a little hesitant to lay the 8 with Tampa. I like Tyler's idea playing this in the first half, and then of course, on the live show, we'll be finding maybe the better spot to the second half already with some money in our pockets. So great point though, Joey. It gets worries you when 99% of the world is on one side, right? So sometimes it works out for us though. Let's go ahead and talk about boy, Tyler. Let's just go straight to your team. I'm going through the order on Bookmaker right now. I see the Pittsburgh Steelers are grabbing 6.5 in Buffalo, and you had some interesting news about TJ Watt before we went on the air. Why don't you share that with everybody?
From everything I'm reading, the management team's trying to hardball him for his contract. They don't want to fully guarantee it. He hasn't practiced yet in training camp. Tomlin came out in a press conference today and said he hopes he practices tomorrow and he hopes his contract is all resolved. Well, the Steelers are old school. They don't do contract negotiations into the season. If Saturday hits and that contract isn't signed, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get an inactive tag come Sunday. So I'd keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I mean that's big news, and boy, I'll tell you what. As a Raiders fan, I can tell you that my experience with lowballing, supreme Hall of Fame level talent didn't really
Just not a
work
good
out
idea.
for us and our fan base. I think you can do it with the Antonio Browns, right? The Nuts, the Le'Veon Bells, right? Okay, you're at the most replaceable position in the NFL, right? We can go ahead and hardball you
Yep.
here. I'm really worried about defensive line. You can never have enough defensive linemen.
My worry is
Never.
the Steelers look at him and they're like, we've drafted so many guys that have played that position before and done well in it. Why do we want to pay this guy $100 million when we could just go draft another one?
And
But
that might be the attitude.
I think that's their attitude, but it's like you're not going to draft another one as good as TJ Watt.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not like he's like Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell, where he's. I don't know for sure, but I've never heard of any incidents out of the locker room. I've only heard that he's a hard worker, a great teammate, and a leader on the practice field as well as on game day. It just really seems same thing with Khalil Mack. It was like the guy never had any off-field issues, practiced every day at 100%, showed up on game day. What more can you want from a player? You're getting production, great attitude, leadership. Pay the guys. It just wild to me. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I mean, I guess we'll go forward and just assume that he's playing. Steelers getting 6.5, a little bit tempting to me, but hey, we got another team, Buffalo, that's coming off a momentum building last season, right? We take our L's here and there. I didn't believe that Josh Allen could become as accurate as he has. Credit to him. He's worked so hard, and now he's a legitimate top 5 quarterback in the league. I think the addition of Stephon Diggs last year had a lot to do with his emergence. So credit to the Buffalo Bills organization for saying, hey, we got a young quarterback. This is how we make him good. And they obviously did the right thing. Sean McDermott, I think he's definitely a top 10 coach, right? Arguably a top 5 coach in the NFL. Questions about the Bills would still around from the defense, right? 2 years ago, a top 5 defense. Last year, they almost won in spite of their defense. What do you make of this game?
This game, honestly, I really want nothing to do with. I know everyone's going to look at that 6.5 on Buffalo and want to tease it down to a half a point.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 games on the board that I would not want to tease down. This is one of them because I think
I already know what the other one is too. I know what the other one is too.
But I think Pittsburgh could win this game. I personally don't think they do, but I'm not taking that chance here. I mean, they're going to come out. They're going to look to prove everyone wrong that said they were the most overrated 11-0 team last year. They're going to want to show that they can run an offense and they have a run game now. The total seems a little short because Buffalo's not going to miss a step. They didn't lose a single coach on the coaching staff. They really didn't lose any pieces on offense. That team is just going to keep chugging along. So that 48.5 seems a little short. I could definitely see this game getting into the 50s. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I really want nothing to do with this game. Maybe some anytime touchdown props.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll be discussing those more on Friday when we have the official props for the rest of the game. So, guys, we had the props for the first game, but for the rest of these, we're just going to work on the side and totals. Uh, do kind of agree with you there on the side. You know, it's always tough to bet an over in a game involving that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, regardless of whether or not T.J. Watt plays or not. Another question I have for you is, what do you expect from Ben Roethlisberger here in this game? I think he's really the key to the season. If he can just get back to even being in the top 15 as a quarterback. I think the Steelers team is so talented. They make noise, they make waves, and they're a playoff team. But if he's not, obviously there's going to be a lot of issues. Not really too happy about the backups that the Steelers have. And then I'd also like your thoughts on Najee Harris.
I think Ben's going to look fine as long as the offensive line can hold up for him. If he's standing back there and he's just getting obliterated by these edge rushers coming off because these linemen can't stop anybody, he's not going to last 5 weeks before he's hurt. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I think he'll be fine. Now, as for Najee Harris, he's the same way. If that offensive line doesn't look good, I don't care how good your running back is. You're not getting anywhere. You're going to get a couple yards. You're going to fall over. Mm-hmm. So these two guys are literally dependent on that offensive line and how far they're going to get them.
And this is a tough week one opponent. Regardless, we talked about the Bills' defense regressing, but they still have great defensive linemen, right? I'm a big Ed Oliver guy. I was really impressed with what he's done, and the rest of the core looks really well too. So you don't really have like a lean then, huh? If you're forced to make a lean, would you take the Steelers or the Bills?
If I had to pin down a side, I'd take the Bills.
Okay. I think I would take the Steelers, but I think that there is no shame at all in laying off of this game and saying, "Hey, bookmaker, you guys put a pretty good number up."
Yeah, it's like that's a nice set number. We'll leave that one alone.
Yeah. I know the NFL's back because I feel like, Joey, I want to take the points in every game, but you can make such good arguments not to. The next game that's on the schedule here, going off the way that bookmakers got them set up, is the New York Jets plus 5.5 down in Carolina against their old quarterback, Sam Darnold. I was listening to my buddies Will and Andy, and Will made a good joke. This is the only time you'll be able to fade Adam Gase on both sides of the ball, as you had Adam Gase as the New York Jets coach, and then Adam Gase as Sam Darnold's coach. What do you make of this game? And I think the Jets are kind of getting a little bit overlooked here. I thought this line should have been 3.5. 5.5 seems a little heavy. Of course, these are moving through. They're not as dead as they used to be, but you go back, when I started betting NFL, these were considered to be dead numbers. What do you think of this 5.5 line?
I mean, I think it's still in that dead range because 5's just that weird number where you could just lose it a couple different ways. Mm-hmm. I think Carolina's offense looks a bit better. You figure you have McCaffrey second year in Matt Rule and Joe Brady's system. Same thing with the receivers. Mm-hmm. Kind of just banking on Darnold stepping up and looking like how he was supposed to be a top 3 pick here.
Yeah.
The defense will look good with Brian Burns blitzing. They picked up Hassan Reddick. But if you had to pin me down here, I'd probably take the Jets at the 5. I think that number's a little inflated. We've seen, was it 2 years ago, everyone wanted to throw Miami under the bus. Miami's going to be the worst team in the league. They're not going to win a game. Brian Flores happened to be the coach of that team. Mm-hmm. These are professionals still out there. He coached that team to, 5 wins? Mm-hmm. I think the Jets are going to be very similar with Robert Saleh.
I really like Robert Saleh. I was really impressed with him in his time here. And I had mentioned that I didn't think he was the best X's and O's guy, and then he got by a lot just on motivation and talent. And then I listened to him talk, and he kind of said the same thing. He said, I might not be the best X's and O's games, but this game isn't won by scheme. It's won by players, and I put my players in a position to win. And I go, this guy cannot be more impressive as a leader of men. I agree with you here. I do like the Jets, and I think that Zach Wilson is one of those guys that he didn't necessarily look good when he was trying to just work right within the system. But as these plays break down, I think you get to see some of his brilliance. And as much as I like Sam Darnold coming out of school, and I wanted a USC quarterback to finally be good, I just don't know if we're going to get it with Sam Darnold here. Maybe Zach Wilson, right, without all the beating down, no seeing ghosts and all that stuff, might be the right play here. What do you think are the differences on defenses? I think the Carolina Panthers have a slightly better defense, but I don't necessarily think that it's that much better than the Jets. I think these are both going to be below average defenses. What do you think about teams' defense?
Yeah, I think it's slightly better. I think they have a couple better rushers on the inside with Brian Burns. And if Hassan Reddick looks like anything he did before, The speed will help cover that linebacker spot. But I mean, both defenses are pretty bad. I'd probably lean to Carolina as being the slightly better one.
All right, and let's talk about line movement. So we both seem to lean towards the Jets here. Do we think that the Panthers continue to take money? Do we wait to place this bet, or do you think 5.5 is the highest it goes?
I think we wait. I think we might see a 6 for a minute.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be pretty eager to fade the Jets. So I'm fine with waiting on this game too. And the worst, I mean, and if the Jets take a bunch of money and we don't bet on the New York Jets, I don't think that we're going to be kicking ourselves too much here. This is a game that I'm really excited about. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars -3 heading to Houston to take on Tyrod Taylor and the Houston Texans. And the reason I'm excited about this game is quite obvious. It's the debut of Trevor Lawrence here. What do you think of this game? I like people don't like laying the points with the rookie quarterback on the road. But this isn't a normal rookie quarterback. This is the best prospect we've seen out of the NFL since Andrew Luck. And we saw it, in the last preseason game where I think he went 11 for 12 and was just moving on his feet so well to mitigate the fact that their offensive line isn't that good, keeping plays alive. Really looked like the prospect that we expected. I know this seems square, but I like the Jaguars here to beat the Texans, and I'm thinking about laying the 3. What do you think?
I see 2.5 on FanDuel. I'd gladly take that 2.5 under that 3-point mark.
Okay.
Because we've seen how key that number 3 is. But I mean, what better situation for a rookie quarterback to be stepping into to play this Houston team in game 1? Like, right. He's going to be able to step out there nice and comfortable. This defense really shouldn't give him much problems. There's not much edge rushers to come off and just obliterate him. So he should just have as much time as he wants back there to find these receivers. I think Laviska Shenault's going to be his guy right across the middle. I'll be looking to get on props for him, but pinning me down to a side in this game, give me Jacksonville. They're going to win this game.
Yeah, I think I'll be looking at a James Robinson anytime touchdown too, as long as it's not juiced too far. If it gets anything more than like -130, can stay away at that point. But I like the way that they're going to use James Robinson. Urban Meyer has had some issues here with running the college-style offense. Some players don't like it. Let's see how quickly he learns from his mistakes. But one thing I do think that Urban knows is a running game is a quarterback's best friend, and I think that he's really going to try and get that forward push. And I don't know if I trust the Houston defensive line. I mean, when I'm doing my NFL tiers, Houston's in a level by itself on the bottom. It is the only one in that bottom tier. I think they're so far away from being a winning franchise in so many ways that we really don't have time to talk about on this show. But I think that, there's certain things that are pretty obvious, and one of them is the Houston Texans have not been run very well over the last couple seasons. The total's 44.5. That's the lowest one of the games that we've talked about so far. What do you think of the total in this game, Tyler?
Really want nothing to do with it. If you had to pin me down to a side, I'd probably lean under. I don't think Houston's going to put up many points. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, do we see Jacksonville just loading up the scoreboard? Probably not.
Right.
But 44 is like a low number, too. It's like a 27-24 game screws you there. 27-20 gets you. So probably no play on the total.
Yeah, I'd like the under there, but I think that we can find some better spots. I'd rather just jump on the side. I'm seeing -3, -103. Maybe Houston will become popular, and I can grab that 2.5 that you're talking about on FanDuel. I think this next game is really interesting. The Arizona Cardinals are grabbing 3 points, heading to Tennessee with a total of 52.5. Tennessee made quite the splash, right? I mean, if it wasn't for the Stafford trade, it would have been the biggest trade. Julio Jones is now a member of the Titans, but they lost like Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis, right? So I don't know how that offsets each other, just because those were two good targets that really gave some room for AJ Brown. Derrick Henry, by all means and accounts, right, should be worn down after the beating he's got. But unfortunately, I read an article about aliens living among us. He might be one of them. I mean, it's just unreal what this guy's been able to do. So while, logically it says that eventually he's going to break down, doesn't seem like something I'd like to bet against here. Then, of course, the Arizona team, I think that they've actually assembled some pretty good talent. I just think that they're in the toughest division in the NFL. Kyler Murray, I think at this point of the season is going to look great. I worry about him. I'm going to November. November and December, but like for DFS and stuff, I think that he's going to do very good for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. What do you think about this game? At first glance, Titans -3, but I'll tell you what, dude, we had that guy Todd Downing as our offensive coordinator, and I thought he was absolutely terrible. And I'm really scared to back a team that's led by Todd Downing on the offense. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, losing their offensive coordinator was big. Arizona made some key improvements on that defensive side too.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it. Kyler's coming into this game 100%.
Right.
Like, this isn't middle of November after he's been beat up. Like, he's coming in fully healthy, and so is everyone else on that team. Now you jump on the other side. Tannehill was dealing with COVID.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to practice for a while. I like the +3, and I even like the +130. I think they win this game.
Wow.
Tennessee's defense has been suspect the last couple of years.
Definitely.
What do you think Hopkins, A.J. Green, Rondell Moore, Christian Kirk, like all these guys are going to have days against this team?
Right.
Yeah, give me Arizona in this one. They're winning this game outright.
Yeah, another pickup that I liked, and of course showing my bias as a Raiders fan, but Rodney Hudson had been absolutely spectacular for us the last 5 years, not only with his individual play, but also his leadership on the line. His ability to get his teammates in the right position, I think, is going to be a big boon. And when you have a young quarterback like Kyler Murray, there's nothing better than having a center there that's going to help yourself set your protections anymore. I originally I leaned Tennessee. I found reasons I couldn't do it, but I'm glad that you went ahead and took a stand on Arizona. Now, we talked about a lower total. This is one of the higher totals on the board, 52.5. We talked about both teams' question marks on defense. What do you think of this game? We saw a lot of overs at the beginning of the year last year. That was with no crowd. What do you think of this one?
Probably still lean over here. I think Arizona's getting into the 30s. And I mean, there's only so many times you can hit Derrick Henry before he pops through the hole and scores a couple touchdowns. So yeah, I'd have to take over there.
All right. Yeah, I was kind of looking at the over there as well. This game moved. It was +1 when I was going over all this stuff before the show. Now it's a pick'em. This is the Los Angeles Chargers with new head coach Brandon Staley, who formerly was the defensive coordinator of the Rams, who had the #1 defense last year, heading to Washington to take on the football team, a team that we absolutely loved when we were doing our season previews, on the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. If you haven't seen that already, head on over and give it a look here. But we liked Washington for multiple reasons. One of them was the coaching advantage here. I don't know what to make of Brandon Staley. I thought that he did a great job as a defensive coordinator. Being a defensive coordinator and being a head coach are two different things. And then we look at, his first assignment is to do the cross-country travel going against really what we thought was going to be one of the best defenses in the NFC, and that's the Washington Redskins here. They got Fitzmagic at quarterback, so they've answered that question. They seem to have plenty of weapons there. Questions on the offensive line, but I would say that like 24 out of the 32 NFL teams have questions on the offensive line. So I like the Redskins here. And my idea is I like the coaching advantage. I like the quarterback upgrade, and I think they have the better defense. Who do you like in this game?
I, too, like the football team.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Brain fog.
But yeah, I think the Chargers week 1, new coach, just like Jake is saying in the chat, new coaches week 1 historically just don't do well. Now we get one coming coast to coast. It's going to be what would that time be for you? A 10 a.m. game?
Yeah, it's 10 a.m.
Yeah, so it's a 10 a.m. early game for them. Give me Washington's money line in this one. I see it at -108. I think they win this game outright. That defense is just going to be too much. I wouldn't be surprised if after 1 week you're seeing all the talk shows on ESPN and Fox Sports questioning if Herbert's 1 year was just lightning in the bottle because Washington's defense sucked them up the first game.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting. Los Angeles Chargers, I'm about to call them San Diego Chargers. As long as we're messing up all teams, let's just mess it up all the way, right? The Los Angeles Chargers, we're kind of known for blowing games under Coach Anthony Lynn. We will see how much Staley is able to turn that around. I see a total here of 44.5. Seems low, but we talked about liking both of these teams' defense. What do you think of the total?
Yeah, no play on the total, but with the defenses on the field for both sides, if you had to pin me down, give me the under.
Yeah, and I think that both teams are going to try to establish a run there. So I think this game will probably have a lower amount of snap counts than maybe some of these other games that we're seeing. We know that Ron Rivera does still like that old school style here. Brandon Staley, we're not exactly sure. Obviously, being a defensive coach, we will see how this works out for the Chargers here. I'm staying away from the total as well. I like the side better. I will go ahead and take the football team with you. Here's the game that I went back and forth on, and I've already written about it this week, and after doing some reading and looking into it, originally like I was really tempted to take the points. A lot of people were obviously tempted because this game was 3.5. Now it's down to 3. What do you think about the Philadelphia Eagles grabbing 3 points, going to down to Atlanta to take on the new look Falcons? We talked about the Titans losing their offensive coordinator. This is where they lost him to. He is now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. -3 there, 48.5. I'll just tell you real quick. When I went through my quick breakdown of this game, I really struggled to find ways that the Eagles are going to be able to match up with this new young stud, Kyle Pitts. And I had mentioned if there wasn't so many good quarterbacks in this draft, I think that Kyle Pitts would have a great chance at Rookie of the Year. I just think there's too many talented quarterbacks. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, I personally lean to the Atlanta side. I'm not big on Philly coming into the year. I don't like their weapons core. I don't like the quarterback. The defense is still kind of solid, but a lot of those guys have been injury prone since the Super Bowl run they made.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I just can't. I don't like the head coach either on that team. Like, he just doesn't rub me as a good head coach. I can't back that team, especially on the road. I think Atlanta's offense kicks it up a notch with Arthur Smith back. Or not back in town, but in town now.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the offense he put together in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matt Ryan has a big day against these D-backs because Darius Slay can only cover one guy. And that one guy
And
will
Slay
likely be
hasn't
Calvin
been that
Ridley.
good. He hasn't been that good.
Yeah, but he does good when he has to shadow a guy. When there's that one good receiver on the other side, he does a good job of taking that guy out. So I wouldn't mind looking at like Russell Gage's anytime touchdowns and just like you said, Kyle Pitts, because they're going to either put a safety or a linebacker on him, and that's not going to go well.
Yeah. All right. Well, so you agree with me here. I like the Falcons. I think the total. I was originally leaning over here. I think that we're pretty sure that the Falcons will put up some points. Will Philly be able to? It's really how well you rate Jalen Hurts. And the one thing about Jalen Hurts is if there's ever a guy that you want to root for to succeed, it's Jalen Hurts. He's, we talked about it earlier with some other players. T.J. Watt was the one, but right. I mean, the guy's a hard worker. He's well liked by all his teammates. Doesn't seem to carry himself as being different than the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I still go back to the one I watched at Oklahoma with him squatting like 585 pounds, and you see the whole team is just going crazy for him, right? Matt makes me think, and I'm just taking a snapshot from one video, but that he's really well liked in the locker room by the way that he carries himself. Unfortunately, in the NFL, just being a good guy and being a good person and being someone that I'd want my daughter to date doesn't necessarily make you a successful NFL quarterback. My other concern in betting this game is I do think that Philadelphia is better on the line, and usually that's how I make my picks. Unfortunately, it's just like grammar, right? You have to know the rules to know when to break them. I think that their skill positions are just so much weaker that this was a rare time where I weighted the skill positions higher than the line play. But I think that if this bet does go bad, it's because Fletcher Cox and company are just destroying.
They look like the old version of
Yeah.
themselves when they made the run.
Yeah, and they only have to cover for 2 seconds
Yep.
and the back end, So, I took Atlanta. It's not my favorite play of the week. I do feel like I have an edge, but like I said, Philadelphia is one of those teams that I think they could surprise here, and I think they might have a little more talent than we're giving them credit for. Regardless, I still like Atlanta, and boy, I think Kyle Pitts is going to be so much fun to watch this year. The next game is the one that line moved the most, and that's because who knows what's going on in that Colts facility. I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks, who are now laying 2.5. I think they were getting 2.5 when this opened.
Yeah, that line's been all over the place.
Yeah, and that's because, do you know what's going on with Carson Wentz?
He's likely to play, but I think some of the linemen and a receiver are out.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just they get one guy back, they lose 3. So take that for what you want.
All right. Seattle, traditionally not the best road team, but last year they did very good on the road. Do you expect that trend to continue?
I do, especially early in the year. I mean, we seen them last year. They started off red hot, and then as the year went on, they tried to tinker with their offense. It was
Right.
a bad decision. It just never like got back to the momentum they had behind themselves.
Yeah.
I think they just let Russ do what he wants here. He just, like they said, let Russ cook, and he just torches this defense, and they win this game outright.
Yeah, I like them too. Just the quarterback advantage, even if Wentz plays, is just immense here. Russell Wilson, definitely a top five quarterback in the league. And then I think that one thing that people were underrating Jamal Adams because I believe that he came back a little bit too quickly, and then he gets beaten coverage a couple times, and people think he's not good. But I don't think that he was 100%. I think you see the all around dominant Jamal Adams at least to start the year. The way he plays, I mean, he'll probably be injured by week 6 again, but we're handicapping week 1 right now.
Yep.
And I believe that Jamal Adams is going to make a huge impact there. I agree with you. I hate laying points on the road, right? Especially with a team like the Colts that's so good at home. But minus 2.5, just because so much stuff swirling around that facility, really hard to know what state of mind that the Indianapolis Colts are in. I see a total of 49.5. Now, the Seahawks had a lot of problems with defense last year. Kind of one of the reasons they led to tinkering their offense is they just couldn't have their defense on the field for that long. Be interesting to see how they find some nice balance there. What do you think of the total of 49.5?
I lean under.
Okay.
I think Seattle's always wanted to run the ball a little bit more, even when their offense was chugging along at the beginning of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the Colts have 3 running backs they could just run right at you behind this offensive line, even though it's still depleted a little bit due to COVID. But I mean, I could see a couple drives lasting like 8 minutes on both sides that end in like a field goal. And then at that point, your 49's looking great.
Yeah, and one weird thing about the season last year, right? And we had so much fun with JJ on this was right. Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the year just looked like he didn't have that instinctual vision, and that just seems to be something that we don't see being taught very often. Going back to where we were wrong, right? Me with Josh Allen's accuracy not improving, and usually players either know how to hit the hole or they don't, right? It's really weird to see a guy around week 8 finally get it, especially running
I
backs.
think we're
He's
going to
the
see
most
some of them
instinctive
guys from
player.
last year that we thought maybe were busts last year come
Yeah.
around this year because you figure they didn't get training camp, they didn't get OTAs last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what happened to do with Taylor not seeing the holes right off the bat, and then by like week 8, he's like, "Oh, now I know where to run, go left instead of right," and then he looked like a completely different player.
And all the reports out of camp are that he's continued to improve. So just so funny to see because I thought that he was going to be a guy that was going to be valuable in fantasy because of usage, but he just turned into be a very good football player. Let's go into the one where, hey, this is my favorite bet. It's the Minnesota Vikings. They're -3 heading to Cincinnati to take on Joe Burrow and the Bengals here. Hey, we had a great time when we were doing our division previews, just basically running down this Bengals organization here. And I think this is another great case of it. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be much improved with getting some people back on defense. I still think that they have the better offense. I mean, you look at the weapons they've got around Kirk Cousins, namely Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and of course Dalvin Cook, who is in the argument for best running back in the league. And I don't think there's an argument that he's a top 5 running back here. Then you go on the other side. I do like Joe Mixon a lot. I just don't think that they're going to get the blocking for Mixon to really dominate. Plus, I think he's going to be behind pretty early in a lot of games. Jamar Chase, he seems to be one of the guys that really suffered from the time off and the opting out here, as he's not had a good camp at all. And they still have weapons, though, right? I like Tyler Boyd. I like T. Higgins here. I think they have a pretty good tight end as well. Of course, we just mentioned Mixon. But I love the Vikings -3 here. I don't care. I'm laying it on the road. When we did Cincinnati, we have them 2 to 3 wins.
Yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
team, our offensive line's still bad. The defense isn't really good. They said Joe Burrow's still hesitant on that knee.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me love the Vikings right here even more.
Right.
I mean, the moment they get the lead, it's going to be Dalvin Cook time. Just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So, I mean, I love the Vikings in this spot. That -3, I think, is the winner.
Yeah, I mean,
and it'll be -3.5 soon because I see -3, -125.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. So I would bet get that one in right now. I like that. I don't see anybody really backing up to take the Bengals here unless it's just the old grab 3.5 at home. Regardless here, what does Kirk Cousins do the best? Right, front run and beat crappy teams.
It's a one
Right.
o'clock game too. This
Yeah.
isn't a
So
primetime game where Kirk's going to
yeah.
fold.
Yeah, and it's not against a good team, so
Yep.
I think this is just a great setup, and that's probably going to be my best bet. Let's talk about another one though that I'm contemplating for my best bet. It's the San Francisco 49ers, who are currently -7, -116 on Bookmaker. They're heading to Detroit to take on the Lions with the new head coach Dan Campbell, who probably is the MVP of the press conferences so far, right? I mean, the guy's press conferences have just been on fire. What does the guy drink, like 8 cups of coffee with like 5 espressos in them every morning? I mean, he just comes in so fired up. Unfortunately, we talked about being a good guy doesn't make you an NFL quarterback. Being fired up doesn't turn, the talent that they have. And I think that they have a bottom 5 talent in the league. Jared Goff, right? I mean, we'll see. He didn't look very good under Derek Fisher. McVay turned him into a stud, but he obviously had his issues with him for a reason here. Seems like a gap year here as they basically took on picks to absorb this Goff contract, which is going to allow them to get some talent, which is what they need. I just don't think this team is very talented. And then if you look last year, the only times that they were really winning and covering this bad was when Kenny Galladay played. I don't think that they found an adequate replacement for him here. I like the Niners -7. You think that the Niners are a legitimate Super Bowl contender? I do as well. I mean, I slightly favor the Rams, and the Bucks over them, but that's an argument for a different time. We both think that the Niners are really, really good, and they're going against a team that, hey, I mean, to put it nice, they're rebuilding.
Yeah.
-7, we just lay it, right?
Yeah, you lay it, you put it in teasers. This team wins by whatever they want on Sunday.
Yeah.
I think you see both quarterbacks at certain points.
Hmm.
Like Detroit's not going to be able to do anything on this defense. Nick Bosa will look great in his first game back.
Yeah.
I mean, Detroit released their best receiver, Rashard Perryman. Let him walk. So
I thought Galladay was better.
Well, Galladay's now a Giant. He signed with the Giants in free agency. They released Perryman.
Oh, you mean they just released him?
Yeah, as preseason was going on. So the weapons there are just terrible. All he has is DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, and Jamal Williams. So
yeah,
I think San Fran just runs away with this one. They make a statement week 1.
I like the under here. I think both teams are going to like to run the ball. I think it's going to be another game that has one of the lower snap counts here, and I think the Detroit's going to struggle to put up points on the board. If Detroit can't even get to 10, I mean, I don't think the Niners are really going to run it up and put up 35. I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit only scored, between 3 and 13 points here. I like the under. What do you think?
I personally wouldn't touch the total unless it was a team total. Like if we take Detroit's team total under and San Fran's team total over, I think that's the way to do it. Because I could definitely see San Fran hanging like 38 in this game.
Okay.
With the way what if like they get a couple runs where Mostert gets like a 50-yard touchdown, Trey Sermon house one from like that same distance.
Yeah.
Then your other drives that get you down in the red zone that also get you touchdowns now, you're up into the 30s already.
And this is to me the one team where the quarterbacks are still competing for their job.
Yep.
Right, every other team named a quarterback, and they know they're their starter.
They're going to run the 2 quarterback rotation.
Right, but Garoppolo knows if Lance comes in and starts balling, right, everyone's going to be calling for him. So Garoppolo's going to have incentive to go ahead and be finding George Kittle racing wide open. Another one I don't think they have a matchup for. Now, I wasn't for sure, but I think this is the one that you do not want to tease. I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns getting +6.5, heading to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, who fell short in the Super Bowl with that patchwork offensive line. They made moves in the offseason to address it here. Chiefs, to me, are the rightful favorites to win the Super Bowl. What do you think of this game? And I know that you love the Cleveland Browns, and go ahead and let people know why it shouldn't be in your teaser.
I wouldn't tease it because we got a whole new offensive line on that Kansas City side.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all other 31 teams in the NFL, Cleveland's probably the only team that can look at Kansas City and go, we hung with those guys. Like, we're really not intimidated by them.
Mm-hmm.
And they hung with them in the playoffs before Mahomes went down. I think you might get some extra motivation from them this game, and they just want to get that loss back. To where if I could see Stefanski talking to his guys after if they win week 1 and they turn around and have to play them in the playoffs, it's like we beat these guys already. There's no need to be worried that Mahomes is going to come in and just torch us, like just play this like a normal game. So I think you can get an extra motivated Cleveland team on Sunday. So I wouldn't be teasing this down to a half a point or even zero.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs here still, but I do agree with you that I think that there's going to be a lot of people who just see this as a teaser, and people are wondering, well, why isn't it moving it? I don't think the books mind taking that action because I do think they agree with you. And talk about a team that you don't want to have a brand new offensive line. You know that I'm not big on the Browns, but I can't deny the talent of Myles Garrett, and he's got a bunch of
I
great
still
guys with
think
him.
everyone's looking at this Browns team like it's an old Browns team. Like if you white label this team and just white out the name
Right,
and look at their roster, you'd probably have them ranked second or third behind Tampa Bay.
right, and
And then you put the name back above them, and everyone's like, I don't know if I want to touch that team.
the GM's name's escaping me right now, but he's the same guy that acquired all that talent for Kansas City, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he can come off
Is
as
it?
kind
I
of
think it's Dorsey. I think
is
the
that
last name's Dorsey, I think.
yeah. All right. Well, okay. So we say stay away from this one from a teaser unless you're teasing it up. Although that necessarily hasn't had the greatest results. I think teasing up, plus 6.5 to plus 12.5 has been a loser over the last couple of years. I think when I was younger, that you could have had some success with it, but teams are getting blown out more and more. Highest total on the board here, Tyler, 54. What do you think?
Give me under.
Okay.
How do you beat the Chiefs? You run the ball.
Right.
And you keep it away from Mahomes. If Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt can chunk off some yardage and just get a couple of long drives, all of a sudden there's not enough time to get to that 55-point mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Nick Chubb's going to have a big year as well. Let's go into a game that I think is just fascinating. The Miami Dolphins are grabbing 3, heading down to New England to take on the Patriots. I know that you are high on Tua this year. I know that we both think that Brian Flores is a great coach. I'll tell you what, I think that Mac Jones is going to be pretty good in this New England system. I'm not really sure what to make of this game. As of right now, I had circled this as a huge stay away. What do you think, Tyler? Am I missing some value?
I want to bet Miami here
Uh-huh.
at the dog price, but Belichick's been so good against his former assistants, which
Yeah.
Flores is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just lining up. I don't trust Mac Jones on the other side, so I don't want to back New England either in his first game. Probably just bet the under in this game. I think you're just going to get both
43.5, right?
Yeah, the defense is just going to be right at each other, though.
Yeah.
Like Miami really didn't lose much on defense. New England picked up a bunch of guys to make their defense better. They're getting all their guys back that COVID opted out last year.
Yeah.
So I think the under is the play in this game.
All right. Yeah, I have no problem saying that, guys, I'm going to stay away from this game, and I'll be really curious to see how the two young quarterbacks do. Does Tua make a step, and can Mac Jones do it in the regular season and not just carving up the vanilla preseason defenses? This next game, lowest total on the board, the Denver Broncos are now -3, heading to New York to take on the Giants. I'll tell you what, Tyler, we like home dogs. This was one of my favorite home dogs here. I'm not necessarily that big of a Teddy Bridgewater guy.
You want me to change your mind right now?
Yeah.
Denver Bronco or Teddy Bridgewater as a starting quarterback, 36-14 against the spread. Teddy Bridgewater on the road as a starting quarterback, 21-3 against the spread.
Yeah, but he's usually getting points.
The Giants' last 4 week ones, 0-4 straight up, 0-4 ATS.
Oh, wow. All right. All right. So I was basically going to say that I felt that the Giants had the Broncos have probably one of the best defenses in the NFL, one of the sharpest defensive minds leading their team here. I think Saquon Barkley can be, and of course we need to find out his availability and how many snaps that he's going to get. But I think that he's the kind of guy that can bust up those schemes just because he's so ridiculously talented here. I think he's the X factor for this team. You look at Daniel Jones. I think his quarterback rating was 93 when Saquon was on the field. Snaps that Saquon took with him drops to 73 or 75 with the snaps that he's not out there. So he's definitely a big boon to the offense, and that's just with his playmaking ability that you really can't scheme to stop here. That was another reason I like the Giants. I think the Giants defense is doing well, and we talked about with Josh Allen, adding weapons to help a young quarterback. I felt like the Giants did that, adding Galladay as well, who we saw really was a big help to Matt Stafford and the rest of the quarterbacks when Stafford was out on that Detroit team. But it seems like we're on the opposite sides here. You want to lay it with the
Yeah, I'm laying it with Denver on this spot. I see
Okay.
Joey's in the chat, Giants by 10 plus.
Yeah.
Till I see Daniel Jones fix that turnover prone he has, I can't back him. Even with all the new weapons, he should look good, but this Denver defense also, it's stacked.
It is. Yeah.
And last year they were banged up, so you didn't really get to see it. Like
Mhm.
Bradley Chubb and Von Miller could be in that backfield all game.
Yeah. Um, all right. So we disagree on that one. That's good, right? We can't agree on everything there. So that'll be fun for us to see come Sunday and
Yep.
see who gets the bragging rights there. The Giants are an interesting home dog there. That I think that really they could upset the apple cart and. This is put up or shut up time for Daniel Jones. They've definitely made the moves to make sure, that he has the teammates there to help him grow and develop as a quarterback. So let's see if he can do it. And let's also not write him off if he struggles against what I think is one of the top defenses in the league. Talking about top defenses here, the Sunday night game will be the Chicago Bears grabbing 7.5. Against the Los Angeles Rams, who were the number one defense in the league. But as we mentioned early, lost defensive coordinator Brandon Staley to go across town, and now he's leading the Chargers. They brought in Raheem Morris, and read an interesting article in The Athletic about that they did not want Raheem Morris to put his own scheme in. He was running basically Staley's scheme. That actually worried me a little. But then at the same time, I didn't think Staley was going to be able to take over for Wade Phillips. So, I want to be very hesitant to doubt Sean McVay and his strategies because it seems to all come alive. Hey, we love the Rams, but 7.5 seems like a lot here. So what do you think here? Chicago Bears plus 7.5, and is Justin Fields going to see the field at all?
No, there's no chance Justin Fields sees the field in this game. I mean, you got Aaron Donald on the other side. That
Right.
defense is stacked. The Bears' offensive line is terrible. So, I mean, the Rams should just be in this backfield all game. There's a reason why he promised Dalton was going to start week one
Right.
because he wasn't going to sacrifice his rookie quarterback to the best defensive player in the league. Dalton's going to get sacked 4 to 5 times. Now, as for the Rams' offense, I think you could see this weird thing happen where Gase has been, or not Gase, Sean McVay. He had to kind of run his offense with Jared Goff, and it was kind of limited because he can only do what Jared Goff could do. To where now he's got a gunslinger. I think you see him put pedal to the metal here, and they're just going to throw the ball. They're not even going to worry about running it. I think they're going to light this defense up, even though we've seen them be a great defense over the past couple of years. I think they win this game by about 10 points.
That one too. Another thing to be mentioned for the Rams, I don't know if they're going to throw that much. I think this is a great opportunity for Sony Michel, who kind of got lost in that running back. The chance to finally to make himself, and we were joking around, right? We did the other one, right? When you said, remember when Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, they were arguing about who the better prospect was, right?
Yep.
And so, this is kind of, we talked about last chances for a couple other players. Last chance for Dalton to prove that he's got a spot in this league, and really last chance for Sony Michel to prove that he can be a star running back. Because if you can't make it in this system, where Sean McVay is going to feed you the ball and put you in great situations, because who's going to take all the attention down the field, right? I mean, you got Robert Woods, you got Cooper Kupp here, right? Even Tyler Higbee is a very good tight end. Although, is he still on the team? They're using Jared Cook too, right?
They drafted a guy Tutu Atwell out of Louisville.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Fucking speed burner on the outside.
Yeah. And Jared Cook can't block very well, but he's another that's going to be an awesome pass catching addition to this team. That being said, I just think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think that we'll see a lot of running from both teams, and I'll be happy grabbing the 7.5 in primetime there. Tyler's on the opposite side. He thinks that the Rams and new quarterback Matthew Stafford run away with it, win by double digits, and cover the 7.5. The final game we'll talk about, Tyler, will be the Monday night game. I don't know why they didn't put the Raiders game up.
I think you skipped one. I think you skipped Green Bay Saints.
Yeah, there's 2 games that aren't at the board. All right, talk about Green Bay Saints real quick. I don't know why this isn't on the board for me at Bookmaker. Let me just grab
probably
it.
isn't on the board because of the location moving.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I think the line was -3 Green Bay beforehand. Now it's -4. Total still sitting at 50. I personally like Green Bay at -3 beforehand. I love them even more now that the game's not in the Superdome.
Where is the game being played?
Jacksonville.
Oh, all right. Okay. That should be interesting. So it'll be outdoors. They got a pretty nice stadium there. Obviously, no home field advantage. If anything, I would think that Green Bay's fans would travel more than the New Orleans fans, who obviously have a lot more on their mind than attending a football game right now. Yeah. So you like Green Bay there?
I do. I think Green Bay comes out. I think they win that game dominantly. I think Jameis has a little bit of like a speed bump in his first game as a starter.
Hmm.
Like I wouldn't be surprised to see him throw 2 picks in his first game, and everyone's like, "Oh God, he's back."
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's going to be really interesting. And with the Rodgers chip on his shoulder, with them posting the last dance and stuff, right? It could be easy to see these guys running up the score. Um, and then the Monday Night Football game isn't on the board at Bookmaker for me, but it's the Raiders at the Ravens. Let me see what I think that the line is going to be.
I got 4.5.
It's only 4.5. You got to be kidding me.
Ravens minus 4.5, total 51.
Did Lamar test positive for COVID? How is this game not 6 or 7?
They lost 2 of their 3 running backs and 3 of their top 3 wide receivers.
They still have Gus Edwards.
Yeah, but that's it. Justice Hill's out. They're trying to sign Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah,
Rashad Bateman's on the IR. Miles Boykins is on the IR. Marquise Brown's dealing with an injury. So it's Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson against the Raiders.
Wow. If there's any time for this beleaguered Raiders defense to look good, and when we're handicapping the Raiders, I think a lot of it comes down to this new defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, who we know did have success running the defense in San Diego / Los Angeles. So now he brings his system in there. Paul Gunther's system obviously did not work. Seemed to be too complicated for some of these young players, and it seemed like a lot of the players were thinking on the field and not just reacting, hitting, and tackling. The Raiders had serious issues with tackling last year. But one thing about the Ravens that we know is these guys are bullies, right? They like to beat up smaller people, and then they get in trouble when they fight the guys their own size, right? I mean, we've all known guys like that. But I think this is a team that can be bullied. And if there's any teams to go in without your offensive weapons and probably still look good, it's this Raiders team that seems that spent more draft capital on the secondary over the last 4 years than any other team in the NFL. But yet they still haven't really seemed to hit on a pick. Jonathan Abrams is pretty good, but he has major struggles in coverage. He was the one that gave up the big play that allowed Kansas City to beat them last year. Damon Arnett was a highly rated cornerback out of Ohio State. Really hasn't come together. They've been trying to kind of hype him up coming out of camp. Not too much going there. And then the linebacking core, which was something that I thought was going to be a major weakness, they made some moves here in the last couple weeks that I was impressed by, mainly adding Denzel Perryman, who's, for most teams wouldn't be a big addition, but when you're as bad as the Raiders were, I think that's an upgraded linebacker. And then KJ Wright is coming off one of his best seasons, and I'm really surprised that the Seahawks let him go. He just recently signed. He was out there practicing, so that could be a boon. I think the Raiders did get a nice little upgrade to the defensive line. Once again, like Gerald McCoy probably wouldn't help most teams, but I think when you're as bad as the Raiders are, he does help here. That being said, it's really hard for me to trust basically a team that they've had one winning season in the last 17 years. One winning season in 17 years, and they're going against the biggest bullies.
And didn't their quarterback break their leg right before the playoffs started that year?
That year, yeah. And we had what was the kid's name? Oh, he was just terrible.
It was somebody bad. Yeah, it was somebody bad. I think it was
Connor Cook. He was a rookie out of Michigan State. And it wasn't very fun. We went down to Houston and got absolutely spanked around by Deshaun Watson. I can't remember if Watson was in the league back then. But regardless, it was really sad for all of us. So I like the Ravens here to continue being the big bullies. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with you. Just like you said, Ravens have been bullies the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Just in week ones over the past 4 years. Last year, 38-6 versus the Browns week 1. 2019, 59-10 versus the Dolphins week 1.
Yeah.
The year before that, 47-3, and the year before that, 20-0. So I mean, they beat up on teams week 1.
All right, Tyler. Well, that is all of the games. Thank you for hanging out and talking with us. But before we go, just a reminder to head on over to runpurebets.com. Use the promo code BETS25 off to get access to all the best in sports gambling information. Best bang for your buck in the industry, that is for sure. Now that we've got that out. Oh, I always forget this, Tyler, and Travis is going to hate me for this. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Oh, Chris, we're about to give out the best bets. You're going to have to make sure to jump in and watch the very end right now. We will do best bets, and we will be back later in the week with props, and maybe we might have flipped on some of these games, so we will be going over these games later in the week as well. Tyler, what's your best bet, side total?
Best bet for a side or total? Give me Denver minus that 2.5.
Oh, wow. Joey's not going to be happy with you. All right. My best bet is I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings -3. You know, they're the other team that I consider to be the bullies, and the Bengals are just a team that I think is in disarray. And I was really disappointed when Joe Burrow got drafted there because I think he's just such a great kid with electric talent. And I think that just going to that franchise is just a kiss of death for your career. And unfortunately, it's going to be another way for him to really find out how bad it was, you know, and how unlucky it was that the Cincinnati Bengals happened to get the first draft pick the year that he went off. You know, maybe he's regretting putting up such gaudy numbers at LSU now and wishes he could have fallen to Miami or San Diego like Tua and Herbert did. But I like the Minnesota Vikings -3. Thank you guys for hanging out. Tyler and I will be back later this week, and then we're going to hammer down the schedule right now. As of right now, it'll probably be a little earlier. Maybe when the season goes, it'll be a little later as I get over this little thing that I'm fighting off. So thank you everybody for hanging out, and run pure.